So, when the war was starting in Europe and the war was starting in Japan, the United States was trying to stay out of it. Remember, our people were tired of war. We didn't want to get involved in another big conflict, especially if it's 3,000 miles away. What's happening is Hitler is becoming more powerful and he wants to expand his power. His goal was to unite every country where people spoke German and turn them into one empire or one Reich. So Hitler took the first step in creating this empire, this, enormous chunk of territory that he was going to own and be in control of. He marched into Austria and said, "This is mine now." So he just went in there and said, "This is mine. I have a powerful army. Stop me." And this was a violation of the Treaty of Versailles that was written earlier. We agreed to no longer do these type of things, and Hitler said, "Nah, I'm doing it anyway." So what happens is no one stops him. They let him do it. The League of Nations just lets Hitler take this country, take over Austria. When Hitler sees that they're not going to stop him and put up any resistance, he says, "You know what? I'm going to keep going." So he goes to a place called Sudetenland, and it's part of Czechoslovakia, and there are people that speak German there, so he says, "This is mine too." And the people of the Sudetenland say, "Nah, we're not going to do that. We're not going to let you take over." Hitler says, "I have a powerful army. I will use force." So he's threatening to use force to take this place over if they don't just surrender to him. So a couple of leaders from other countries, from Great Britain, the leader of France, they all meet to try to decide what to do about Hitler. And curiously, they don't invite Czechoslovakia, which is the country that owns the chunk of land Hitler is trying to take. So they invite the other countries, but they don't invite the group that Hitler is trying to steal from. They believed that, Hitler, if he didn't get his way, was going to go to war. They thought he was not going to stop if they didn't give him what he wanted. So they decided on something called appeasement. And appeasement is when you give somebody what they want to keep the peace. So if you imagine you're behind some lady in the grocery store and her kid is crying and screaming for a candy bar. The mom's got to make a choice. She can either not give the kid the candy bar and let him cry it out, or give him the candy bar so he'll stop crying. And if you give in and give the candy bar, that is appeasement. And that's what they did to Hitler here. They gave him the land he wanted. Which it's probably a lot easier to give away something that's not yours. But after they did that agreement, Hitler says, "You know what? You're right. I'm done. I'm not going to take over any more territory." He promises to stop what he's doing and just be content with what he has. Neville Chamberlain goes back to Great Britain and he says, "We have peace with honor." So he gave away somebody else's land to keep the peace. Then what happens? Hitler starts to advance even farther. If you remember back in the previous lesson, Hitler blamed the Jewish people for all of Germany's problems. So on November 9th, 1938, the Nazis, or Hitler's group, go in and they start burning down the Jewish synagogues. And a synagogue is a Jewish church. They broke into Jewish people's homes, they kidnapped these people, they killed them, they arrested them. This night is also known as Kristallnacht, or the Night of Broken Glass. So lots of these Jewish people were killed, or arrested, or put in jail, or tortured during this time. So in 1939, Hitler starts setting up places to send all of these Jewish people, these concentration camps or these death camps. And Hitler calls this his final solution. He wants to exterminate the Jewish people from Germany and the surrounding areas. So he wants to get rid of all of the Jewish people. People don't know what's going on, or if they know, they don't know the full details. There's no Facebook, there's no Twitter, there's no Instagram, there's no way to post these terrible things that are happening. So a lot of people don't realize how bad Hitler is being at this moment. And that allows Hitler to, carry on with this for quite a while, and he ends up eventually killing about 6 million Jewish people. And these people were executed or, murdered for no reason. only because Hitler was blaming them for Germany's struggles. Okay, so what happens next? Germany decides they're going to attack Poland. The Treaty of Versailles was the treaty that ended World War I, and as part of that treaty, part of Germany's land was given to Poland. Well, Germany says, you know what? We want our land back. So Hitler demanded that Poland return the city of Danzig and give it back to Germany. So he's basically telling them, I don't care about that agreement, that peace treaty. That was ours. We want it back. So Poland refuses to give it back because Poland has some backup. They have support from Great Britain and France. And both countries say, if Hitler invades you, we will come and help you defend yourself. Great Britain and France also expect the Soviet Union to help against Germany. So that's going to be 4 powerful countries against Germany. So they think if Germany does anything, they'll be able to squash it. What they didn't realize is that Hitler had already made a deal with the Soviet Union. He had promised them if they stay out of the conflict and do not come and help Poland, in return, they would be given half of Poland's territory after Germany takes it over. The German soldiers quickly go in to Poland to invade. And this new method of attacking quickly is called a lightning war or a blitzkrieg. They're going in there with their tanks and their bombs, and they're just trying to wipe everything out to end this battle quickly and take it over. So the Soviet Union also attacks Poland. Great Britain was expecting them to be on their side, but no, the Soviet Union is with Germany and with Hitler. Great Britain and France declare war on Germany, trying to help Poland. President Roosevelt sees all of this going on, and if you remember the last lesson, he was telling everybody, we cannot ignore this conflict, because if we ignore it, it might come to us. Congress passed that law saying we cannot sell weapons or give money to any countries at war. We didn't want to get pulled into another war. But President Roosevelt asks Congress, he says, get rid of that law. We need to be able to sell weapons to our allies. And after a long debate, Congress agrees, and then we start selling weapons to Great Britain and France. So after a few weeks of attack, Poland surrenders. Germany and the Soviet Union divide Poland into 2 pieces, and Poland is gone. Through the winter of 1939 and 1940, the war kind of quiets down, and some people start to think it's over, or they say it's a phony war, and people are making it a bigger deal than it actually was. What happens, though, is as this thing is getting quiet, Hitler is planning. Hitler goes on, and he makes an announcement. He says, today Germany, tomorrow the world. So he is saying he's not going to be content with what he has. He wants to control the entire world. So in April of 1940, Germany attacks Denmark, Norway, then he attacks Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands, and then he attacks France. So Hitler is just going on victory after victory, and as he's winning each victory, he's building momentum and becoming more and more powerful. Something happens at a place called Dunkirk, though. More than 300,000 British, Belgian, and French soldiers are trapped by the Germans. They're trapped and they're outnumbered. They end up retreating to a place called Dunkirk and trying to just hold out until someone can rescue them or they can find a way to escape the situation and no longer be trapped. So, hundreds of ships set sail from Great Britain to try to help out the soldiers that are stuck at Dunkirk. And what happens is they're actually able to successfully rescue many of them. So that's kind of a loss for the Germans because they don't get to take those 300,000 soldiers prisoner. They actually escape and they rejoin with the British Army. But then Hitler's team gets another victory. Italy joins with Germany and declares war. When Italy joins, France surrenders. So now you have Germany, you have Italy, and you have the Soviet Union all working together. Great Britain was left alone to fight against Germany. So all the other countries that were fighting against them have been defeated, or their armies are so small from the losses they can't do anything about it. So you have Great Britain alone fighting Hitler's army, who's won every single major battle they've been in. If Great Britain was defeated, we'd have no more allies over there. Hitler would control all of Europe. So the Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, gave a speech. He told them, "We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight in the beaches. We shall fight in the fields and the streets. We shall not surrender." So he's basically saying, unlike France, they won't surrender. They will fight to the end. The British waited for the Germans to invade their country. They've been dropping bombs, using their tanks. And the Germans didn't realize that they had a new technology, or the British had a new technology. The Royal Air Force started using something called radar. And radar allows you to see when things are coming your direction. So what this allowed the British to do was they could see when German bombers were coming, and they could get their anti-aircraft weapons ready and aimed and shoot down these planes as they were coming. What this does is this forces Germany to change, and Germany, instead of attacking during the daytime when they could see their targets, starts switching to more attacks at night, when it's harder for them to be shot down, but it's also harder for the Germans to hit their targets. So what happens between Hitler and the Soviet Union then? Remember, they were on the same team. They made that deal about Poland. Hitler decides he no longer needs the Soviet Union, and he attacks them. He ignores their treaty because he thinks he is so strong that he does not need this ally anymore. This decision ends up being a mistake. Canada, Great Britain, Australia, and the Soviet Union joined together now to fight against Germany. So Hitler had some allies, and he betrayed one of them. And when he did that, it's going to cost him. This is one of the important things that make people realize Hitler wants to really take over the world. He was not just saying it. Many Americans still do not want us to enter the war. They see all this fighting going on, but it's 3,000 miles away from us. We got two oceans separating us, one ocean on each side protecting us. And we don't want to get sucked into another terrible war or conflict. President Roosevelt told the American people that our allies need help. Great Britain needs more weapons, but we can no longer sell them to them because they don't have the money for them. America had to be the arsenal of democracy, and he suggested instead of selling the weapons, we could lend or lease the weapons to them, which basically means we could rent the weapons out. Under the Lend-Lease Act, the United States government would provide weapons to any of the countries that were fighting against Germany. And lease is just a fancy word basically for renting. They're going to pay us, they're going to use these, and then they're going to return them eventually. During World War II, the United States provides over $50 billion dollars and equipment value by giving weapons and supplies to our allies. The United States realizes the more money we're spending on this fight, the more time we're investing in it, the more likely it is that we're actually going to get pulled into the conflict. So the United States starts to prepare in case we do have to actually get into this fight. Congress approves millions of dollars for us to build up our army and get ready. And the Selective Service Act was passed in September of 1940. And this is the draft, where they randomly call people to join the army. This was the first time that the draft had been used during peace, because we were not at war, but they were calling soldiers to join the army in case we did go to war. It started initially calling men ages 20 to 35, and they say it was like a lottery. If your name got called, you had to go and serve 1 year in the army. Eventually, they lower the age to 18. The United States, when we made that treaty with Great Britain, and agreement, when we made that Lend-Lease Act deal with them, one of the things we got in return was Great Britain was allowing us to use some of their warships and some of their naval bases. So what this did is it allowed us to have soldiers set up and ready in case the war actually did start for us, in case we had to get involved with the fight. We could have soldiers close to where the conflict is so we could respond more quickly. This would allow us to defend ourselves better and keep a better eye on the Panama Canal, which was very important for our transportation and send in reinforcements quickly. Okay guys, what I need you to do is go into Google Classroom and you are going to work on Chapter 26, Lesson 2 and 3.